Okay. Super. In this last section, we'll be discussing further on about the roles, about the different tasks, activities, formalities, and stuff like that. Now, with respect to the customs and the customs related activities, of course, we have two different uh, so uh, two great families of procedures, of tasks, of activities. The first one is the import, and the second one is the export. With respect to the import, well, of course, the definition, a broad definition is that import is a product that is brought into a jurisdiction or a nation across national borders from an external source, and of course, the party that brings the goods in is called an importer, and the import in the receiving country has to have an export from the sending country. Further on, export is the selling of goods and services produced in a certain country to another country and requires involvement of customs authorities in both the country of export and the country of import. So again, two broad families here. The export process, what are the requirements for an export process? Again, let me repeat here that all of these requirements require a lot of information to be gathered and a lot of information to be sent to the relevant authorities or to the relevant actors in the transport or in the supply chain. The first is the nomination of the port of loading, usually the forwarder. The nomination of the liner, again, the forwarder does that. Nomination of the haulier, the expected time of arrival within a port, the closing time of the port beyond which you cannot enter or you cannot get your products, your cargo. The empty container delivery, loading and stuffing processes, laden container collection, export booking, container that arrives at the port, loading onto a vessel and sailing. That's pretty much all that is included in the export processes. Let's say the cycle, we have the forwarding agent usually, or the NVOCC, most modern actor. He collects all the documentation and prepares the documentation, including the bill of landing, port custom clearance formalities like duties, declarations, cargo scanning if need be. He processes the order. He asks a road transport company to deliver an empty container to the client, who prepares also the export documents, consignment note, packing list, etc., etc. Then on to the empty depot operator, it stores the empty containers, and it's a 3PL actually for the shipping line. Then it goes to the shipper, the manufacturer. It sends the container to the shipper, the manufacturer, the company that owns the cargo, which loads the goods on the container, and then the transport company, the road transport company again, collects the laden container, um, and the export booking is done, and then it goes to the port, the terminal operator, which is actually the port of loading and the port of export, and everything is prepared in order for the container to depart. On the other hand, we have the import processes. Again, we have a nomination of the port of discharge, the nomination of the liner, nomination of the haulier, the ETA, the expected time of arrival, the port clearance, customs clearance, free storage time. That's very important because it includes all the ports, all the tariffs, all the fees actually that the port asks in order to store the container. It's actually what we've said before about the temporary storage on the port. We have the laden container delivery, the unloading process, again the empty container collection, then the empty container storage in the empty container storage depot. The cycle, which is the reversed export cycle that we've seen before. Now it starts from the port terminal operator. Of course, we have the ship that discharges the containers, the imported containers, and stores them at the yard. Then the transport company delivers the laden container. Yeah. Import documents are prepared like customs declarations, entry declarations, and scanning, consignment notes. It goes to the user, to the customer, which unloads the container, the cargo from the container. Then it goes. Then the haulier collects the empty container to take it back to the empty depot. And the forwarding agent in this process prepares all the documentation, port customs clearance, duties. In some cases, the forwarding agent also pays the duties on behalf of the cargo owner, and does all the order processing that is pertinent to this chain. Now, in this process, sorry. Yeah, so again, some more processes there. Transshipment, the transshipment process, which is very important. Well, actually, we have transshipment when goods or containers are unloaded into intermediate destination, and then from there are dispatched to another destination. We could have containers being transported to this intermediate destination, or we could also have goods transported with LTL, less than truckload containers, or less than container loads, transported to intermediate destination in order to be stuffed again with other goods in order to be shipped to the end destination. Now, the change of we have a change of transport mode in some of the cases, or transport means during this journey. So it's this is called transit. When you change transport modes, it's called transit. But we could also have a transshipment or only a transshipment. And the idea behind transshipment is that consolidation of smaller shipments into a large one can bring on additional value through cost savings. Now, cargo consolidation, similar to this one, when we have less than container loads, we usually consolidate the cargo in order to utilize the space in the container as much as possible, so that the average cost of this operation, of this service provision, decreases. However, there is a trade-off, as usually is everywhere. The reduction in the cost comes with an increase in the risks, because when you load and unload goods from a container, the risk is higher to produce to induce damages to the products, or any other risk that might be incurred in this process. Customs clearance, now that's the single most important operation from the government perspective. All of the competent authorities pay too much attention to customs clearance, and likewise all the freight forwarders and the NVOCCs also try to be as accurate as possible, because in those cases that there are problems, someone sees that a declaration is not truthful or not correct, this might incur penalties, additional taxes, or additional levies. Now, duty determination, again, that's the most important issue again in the customs clearance. Well, you prepare all the documentation, and in this preparation you have to determine the duty that the tax that has to be imposed and has to be paid in order for the imported goods to be released from the customs area in the ports. Now, the amount of duty that an importer has to pay is usually determined by three different factors, three different drivers. First is the type of goods, the classification, that is. The second one is the value of goods, the valuation of the products. And the third one is the country from which the goods come from, the rules of origin. Now, tariffs is the rate at which an import is taxed, and the rate is usually dependent on the classification of the goods, their country of origin, government stipulations or objectives, and generally speaking, issues that are beyond the reach of the producers or the buyers. Now, that's a tariff schedule for the United States. This, as you can see, includes different values, different products that have different values and have different rates of duties, of tariffs that are imposed on these products. More precisely, here we have the rates of duty. For example, the generic rate is in this case 7.3%. However, there are special rates for some specific zones, like the Australia US trade, based on the Australia US trade agreement, Colombia, or wherever else. Now we have the classification, as you can see here. For example, the 9114.10.40 are the watches. So when someone brings in watches for a trade purpose, for commercial purposes, there is a different duty that is imposed as opposed to jewels or dials or other articles. Now, in this one here, we have the classification and the valuation. So the government does this for us, it values the goods that are important, that are reported. So yeah, this is a little bit catchy area, problematic area. This means not that this is the value that has to be declared. This is the minimum value that is accepted by the government. If the value, the real value of the products of the articles is higher than this one, then the higher one has to be enforced, of course. And then the duties are calculated on the higher of those two. Then again, we have other import taxes that have to be declared, and all the documentation has to be prepared by the transport chain actors. For example, we have punitive duties. We also have border traffic taxes, safeguard taxes, security taxes, temporary protection taxes, and many different forms of taxation and duties that a country imposes on the imports. Again, this comes from a very protective, sort of speaking, past, commercial past that most of the countries have. In the modern world nowadays, these sort of duties are, well, the governments try to reduce them, if not abolish them at all. Now, again, with the customs, you have pre-shipment inspections, which are performed by independent companies in order to determine that the goods that are shipped are the ones ordered. Again, these are private contracts, these private shipment inspections. However, what's important for you to understand in this case is that these inspections are also the way forward for the governments themselves. Nowadays, the governments, and especially with trade agreements, and the modern customs authorities and the competent authorities, ask either another competent authority to perform on their behalf. The receiving, that is competent authority, asks from the sending competent authority to perform inspections on their behalf, or to independent companies to perform these inspections on their behalf. And these inspections are geared more on the security side of things. However, this sort of process is expanding to also include economic crimes or economic valuations and stuff like that. Now, as you can all understand, as you can all see, the customs clearance process has three different steps. The first one is the entry of the products, of the cargo. The second one is the clearance. The third one is the liquidated entry, that is when you have paid all the duties, all the taxes, and the products are free for you to get. And of course, if there is any disagreement with the government, the freight forwarder or the owner or the receiver or the agent in general usually protests in order for the government to to check again the products and the duties that have been imposed. Now we've seen that. Now, required documentation. Now that's another important issue in terms of fusing information, and in terms of the single windows that are to be discussed tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. At the minimum, the following documents are required by every country. A form for entry. In Europe, usually this is, if I remember correctly, the T2L form. You also have to have a certificate of origin, certifying the true origin, and also a commercial invoice which has information that determine the value and also determine the classification of the goods. Now, said that, usually in certain products, phytosanitary and other similar inspections have to be performed, before the products enter a country. And this sort of documentation is also attached on the cargo and with the three more documents that we've seen here, and is fused to the relevant authorities and to the competent authorities. Again, this is the entry level, the basic documentation, the basic information that is shared. Other products may require even further documentation. For example, if you have a IMDG, that is an International Maritime Organization, dangerous goods class cargo, then you also have to have documentation and certificates for these goods too, which are more strict and require and are further laborious, this documentation. Again, when it comes to the customs clearance process, you have to have all the required markings on the product. For example, you have to specify the name of the country that this product is made, the product name, what the product really is, if it has any peculiar substances or any controlled or any restricted substances or whatsoever. And for certain products that the import is limited by quotas or other restrictions, for example, in most of the cases, the most often seen cases, the textile products, which has bilateral monitoring systems being set up between companies, merchandise visa have to be attained and have to be attached on the products. Now, in this case, we have also customs brokers. These include further roles in the supply chain, further stakeholders that have to get information or have to prepare information or have to disseminate information. So we have, for example, customs brokers, which are independent firms representing usually the importer, and that has all the capabilities to prepare the documentation so that the cargo is imported efficiently and effectively, and that customs raise no issue in this import. Again, another issue now, and that's again going back to the documentation and the information sharing requirements. In most of the cases, we have customs bonding. What customs bonding is, in most of the cases, customs, especially in certain areas and certain countries, require the importer or the broker to submit, to post a bond, that is to give in, sorry, not to give in, to submit a sum of money, to deposit a sum of money with customs or with a bank that acts on behalf of the customs. So if any duty is unpaid or if any additional duty is imposed, this deposit acts as an insurance, as a policy, insurance policy, so that the customs can claim back amounts of money that are due. And this ends this session. If you have any questions, any issues whatsoever, please feel free to send us all your questions. I don't know, is there a...
Yeah, sure. They can use the chat or they can speak or they can raise their hand by the left button.
Okay. So, are there any questions? No. Okay, thank you very much. It was a pleasure talking to you guys. If anything comes up or if any question arises in the next few days, feel free to send me an email. These presentations are going to be uploaded on the TrainMoS portal, as well as the recordings. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure talking to you. Till next time.